السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Dr. Safi, you can start with the question, and can Dr. Suhail follow up with you?
A question from me?
Yeah, or just start the...
Okay, just to start. Sure.
Yes.
There are many questions that can come to mind. Dr. Suhail, actually, we've been talking about what it takes to form a community, what it takes for each one of us to be a better Muslim, and how to get ready to be mission-oriented as a basic requirement for us to be effective in our communities. And this is a topic that is fundamental if we want to become effective in what we are doing. After years of you talking about this, at least I witnessed you talking about it for 2 years. And so far we have people that understands what you're saying, and they are right here participating with us. What is it that each one of us need to do in order to bring that theoretical issue into a practical level, so we can all who are been following you, watching you, listening to you, and liking what we're hearing, and the proof that we are liking what we're hearing is the fact that we're coming back. If we didn't like it, we won't come back. So if we like it, if we are following, if we are listening, and if we are interacting, what does it take for this group, this nucleus of a community? What does it take for them to do in order to bring the theoretical issue into a practical implementation?
طيب، بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. What we have been talking about is not really theoretical. It's practical. It just needs a commitment. Because as Brother Basim said before, that some people, they keep asking what we need. I'm not talking about the people in this group, talking about people in Jumu'ah in general. Okay, what needs to be done? And then when you talk about what needs to be done, it doesn't get implemented. Why? Because that commitment is not there from the beginning. That's needed. There is no way we can skip it. It is like people who not only ask for what needs to be done, but commit to do what needs to be done. So the way is not hard to figure out. It is not easy to implement. There is no quick solution or easy solution. But the path is clear. People avoid it because it is inconvenient. It is not common. It is not what they have been told for years or for decades or for centuries. That's why people, always venturing into unknown is not easy, especially when people are comfortable where they are. Now our people are very comfortable with their current understanding of Islam. It's very convenient. Islam that requires you to pray, fast, and pay zakat if you qualify, perform hajj if you qualify, don't steal, don't drink, and you're fine. That's very convenient, Islam. And even this, people try to work around it. There are Muslims who say, even this, we don't need to do it because Allah is Ghafur Rahim. So we all is going to go to heaven. Or if it takes, we're going to be punished for a couple of days and then we will switch, will be moved to heaven. So to talk to these people and tell them that whatever version of Islam that you inherited, what came to you through centuries of stagnation and oppression and dictatorship And therefore, it was very much twisted, like we see nowadays. I mean, we see it now. What we see nowadays happened over the centuries. We see ulama sultan nowadays, the scholars who justify everything that the dictator wants, and they issue fatwa. Throughout our history, there was ulama sultan. And these are the only one who were allowed to publish and to teach and to keep that version of Islam. So that's what we need to be aware of, that the version of Islam that reached us came through centuries of stagnation, oppression, and the work of ulama sultan, the scholars of the ruler, the ones who say what is permissible. And that's why we have fiqh salah and fiqh al-wudu and fiqh tahara blown out of proportion compared to fiqh maqasid, or the mission of Islam, which was sidelined. Why? Because it does not fit the rulers or those who are in charge. It's not easy for people to accept that you received a fake version of Islam, a twisted version of Islam. Islam that became so superficial, so rigid, so narrow, that it does not produce anything. Even when it is embraced by hundreds of millions of people, it did not produce any results, any outcome. Why? Because it is defective. I mean, if something is defective, it doesn't help if more and more people embrace it. So it's not easy to convince people to accept this. That's why I said, if there is no commitment, people can ask for what needs to be done, but the moment you start talking about, say, no, I think we're fine. What you're saying is good and great, but I think إِنَّا وَجَدْنَا أَبَاءَنَا. We inherited this and I think it's good for us. They say good is the enemy of great. Now that's the problem that we're facing. Good is the enemy of great. You find the Muslim community here, we have our own mosques, we have our own Jumu'ah, we have some activities, we have some organization. We're fine. It's better than nothing. Yes, it's better than nothing, but that's not what is required. You read the Quran, you find that the community of believers is described in a different way. It is described to be leading community. It is described to be model community. It is described to be impactful community that makes a difference wherever they settle. الذين إن مكناهم في الأرض أقاموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة وأمروا بالمعروف ونهوا عن المنكر. Wherever they settle, they make a difference. They have an impact. They don't live 50 years or 60 years in America and have no impact. That's not the Muslim community that is described in Quran. Wherever they settle, even for a few days or for a few weeks, they leave an impact. They make a difference through that Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy Anil Munkar. Whatever good they find in that society, they will promote it, even for a little bit. And then whatever things that are bad in that society, they try to reduce it. So that commitment is not there. What I am working on now, I'm like retreating for these couple of weeks, trying to finish to write a platform. It's like they called manifesto because that's the word, even though it's a Marxist thing, but it became part of the English vocabulary. Manifesto meaning the platform of any movement. So I'm hoping that by the middle of next week, like Tuesday, Wednesday, not this Tuesday, Wednesday, the after, I have the first draft ready, and then we can address this question. Whoever says, what are you about? What are you calling for? What you need to do? Then you have a document. You have 20 pages, 30 pages, whatever, crystallized and distilled document, and say, okay, if you buy into this, you want to commit, you want to be part of that core group, we're going to charter a new course for the community. And by the way, it's not only for the community, because even though Islam need to be contextualized from one place to another, but the intellectual platform will be the same. This understanding of Islam that is based on that three component, the Tawheed or the faith, redefine it with a very strong dose of spirituality, with a strong relationship of Allah based on love and gratitude, redefined, not the Salafi, the desert.
We don't
Tawheed.
repeat what they're saying. It's a contemporary reading of what Tawheed means.
Yes, yes. So it's not the Tawheed that came from the desert, that is very dry, that has only few rhetorics, that we believe in Allah, in Sifat, bidun ta'til, bidun tashbih, words that have nothing. I mean, people have been repeating them, but they have no implication. Why? Because it is a relationship that was stripped from the spirituality. It's based only on fear of punishment. It's aqidah that is so dry, aqidah tahawiyya, aqidah this, aqidah that, very dry. Most people, they hear about it, but they have never read it. And if you try it, you find it so complicated and so dry, even though it was the greatness of this deen is in its simplicity. So redefine it, Tawheed redefined, defining Islam as a life mission, Tawheed, Risala, and Maqasid. This is the new paradigm that we're going to introduce. It's a religion based on that strong relationship with Allah that will translate of dedicating your life to Him. And then practically, you're going to spend your life, try to understand and fulfill your mission to the best of your abilities, and understand and fulfill the maqasid, the ultimate purposes of Islam to the best of your ability. Now, where does fiqh and sha'air come in? Fiqh and sha'air came in Islam to support this individual. That's why they came later. To support these committed individuals, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows us, knows what we need, knows that this prayer, these rituals are critical for you to stay on, for that relationship with Allah, for your faith, and to get the energy that you need to fulfill that mission, because it's very demanding. That's why the Sahaba were described as ruhbanan bil-layl, fursanan bin-nahar. It's very exhausting mission, requires that spiritual refueling, requires the fasting, the prayer, etc. And then things that Allah has forbidden, haram, they are things that are detrimental to the individuals. They distract you from your mission. They hurt your physical ability. They interfere with your concentration or your mission, very distractive. And then they hurt the society, that this deen came for the betterment. So drinking is haram. Quran says it, because the damage outweighs any benefit out of it. وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِنْ نَفْعِهِمَا. That so these rituals, this fiqh that we define nowadays as a deen, came to support and help those individuals who committed to the mission and to the maqasid, dedicated their lives to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then Allah from His mercy and wisdom prescribed these things and has
Lost audio. You're muted.
Is it okay now?
Yes, I can hear you.
You can hear me now?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we can. Yes,
Can you speak?
I'm speaking. We can hear you.
Yeah, okay. You can hear me now. Okay. So That's why we have people who died in Mecca before they knew how to pray, before they knew about all these rituals, sha'air, and before knowing all the fiqh. So why they died? Why Quraysh tortured them and why they persevered? Quraysh tortured them because they committed to a mission, and they persevered because they committed to a mission. So we need to bring this paradigm back. Now we have a pyramid that was turned upside down. What was prescribed to help individuals, mission-driven individuals, committed individuals, to help them fulfill the mission was removed, and then those supporting tasks became the deen. So now the deen is to pray and fast and then abstain from haram. That's not true. That is not true. That's not how Rasul ﷺ defined Islam. And again, if he defined Islam this way in Mecca, Quraysh would have no problem. If all what he was asking about for people to stop worshipping idols and just perform those rituals and abstain from haram, Quraysh will not have any problem with that. But Quraysh had a problem with people who were freed by this deen, and then they start having a high purpose in life, aware of themselves and their rights that are given to them by Allah, and are not willing to accept humiliation or to accept being exploited or abused. That's what bothered people, and that's what we need to bring back. Without that approach or that model of individuals, core group, solid core group, committing to a mission and to true leadership, you cannot talk about any step after that. Because only when you get to that point, you resume moving on track. As I mentioned before, it's like we lost our way. We were driving in the highway, and we are now in state of loss. No matter how much we're going to drive, we're not going to get closer to our destination. But only when we get that point, when we find our way back to the highway, and that's the starting point.
Which is the GPS, which is our GPS.
Our GPS. That's why I personally not interested in any activity or any work by any organization that does not start from that point, because I believe with all the good intentions of the people who are doing it, it's not going to get us anywhere. It is making us feel good, keeping us busy, but it is managing the status quo. And I personally have no interest in putting efforts to manage the status quo, because when is it okay to manage the status quo? When you are in a good situation. I mean, when you are on an airplane.
But we don't want good. We don't want good.
Yeah. When we are
stand in the way.
Yeah. When you are on an airplane.
Yeah.
When do you start coasting or cruising? After the takeoff.
Yes.
But if you're going to continue cruising while in the runway, you will never go anywhere. Now, that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
We are on the runway, and people will tell us, let's keep moving. It's good. Now you're not. Gonna have the cruising comes after the takeoff. And the starting point for that takeoff is the one I keep focusing on. Hopefully, if we get this draft ready, inshallah, everybody will have a chance to look at it, get some feedback, finalize it. Once we have a document, then we can say, before we talk about what needs to be done, are you first committed to this? If we get the buy-in of somebody and that full commitment, then we can talk about the next steps.
Jazakum Allahu khairan wa barakallahu fikum. And I promise you, after we receive it, regardless whether I personally like it or not, because it's not a personal thing, we will publish it on Iqra website and all social media platforms.
Inshallah.
To bring it to the attention to people around the world.
Inshallah.
And then we need to engage in a conversation, in a dialogue with those people, explaining why we did this. By the way, Iqra just finished working on a strategy plan of how to take a Muslim country from where it is today into Islamic rule. Your manifesto will serve as an introduction for our strategy plan, inshallah.
Inshallah.
And people should know that we're not coordinating our work, yet it is coordinated in the plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah.
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 Assalamu alaikum,
Wa
Dr.
alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Sorry, I came late, but from what I'm hearing, first of all, thank you so much for coming up with this. I know this has been a long time coming. Your vision and project of bringing us together in a way that can cement this commitment that we need, not only for as a nation. I mean, we need it as individually. You know, it's a very hard step, like to take that one step commitment as an individual, and we need it for our families. And then, you know, building one at a time, one home at a time, and then inshallah as a society, and inshallah nation and internationally, inshallah. And inshallah, I speak for myself, and I believe that this is something we have been yearning, and inshallah, bi'idhnillah, we are ready for it. And hopefully, I didn't get the part when we are gonna meet or where and when, and hopefully, inshallah, we can start, even if it, you know, 1-2 people. But before we maybe expand it, we need that kind of like to get, like, as a group, we need to first be able to know each other well, to understand each other, to hear each other, you know. I guess this is an important step. So Jazakallah khair, and also for Dr. Safi and everyone else. Barakallah fiik.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Asma. I just had a question. In a nutshell, can you tell me? I did not get, you know, the main gist of what was the project and what was the purpose of it.
Brother Safi, do you want to answer this?
Sister Asma, basically, a movement cannot start without a basic statement explaining what its vision and its mission are. What worldview does it have? And Dr. Suhail just got through telling us that he took a couple of weeks to think about it. Maybe it's been taking years, but now he is taking the 2 weeks to write down on paper, to put it down on paper, and he calls it a manifesto. A manifesto meaning a statement of purpose, basically. All political movements have their own manifestos, and this is an Islamic manifesto based on his vision and his mission and his understanding of Islam as a movement of change that took a very primitive society from its primitiveness into a leader of the world leaders. They led the world with the values that were based on the basic manifesto of La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, otherwise known as Tawheed. And I call it myself, I moved away from the word Tawheed because we're not unifying anything. It's Wahdaniyah. It's based on Ahad, not Wahid. It's based on the Ahad. And Ahad, in my translation, is called uniquely singular Allah, uniquely singular God. So that vision, Dr. Suhail will announce in the next few days, and each one of us can take it, think about it, see where he fits within the scope of that vision, whether he wants to adopt it, whether he wants to live by it, And basically, if any other organization wants to work with us, or any other group want to work with us, the basic requirement is move from your status quo, which is static, into and take a movement shape, and let's start moving forward instead of being happy with the status quo. Islam requires that we always move forward. Islam is not did not come so we can maintain a status quo. Islam came so we always understand our situation and react to it based on the Quran and Sunnah. I hope
Right.
I summarized your ideas.
Yeah.
So this is basically what the Prophet ﷺ's mission was, right?
Yes.
So why do you want to have a new movement by a new name or something? That's my question. Isn't it the same thing as the Prophet ﷺ?
Can I reply to that too, Dr. Suhail? It's not a new movement. It's taken the movement of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, freeing it from the sediment of 1400 years of clergy, so-called scholars, so-called people who are trying to maintain the status quo for whoever was running the show, and trying to again revive it. And each one of us now has the same responsibility Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had when he started talking to the people around him. So each one of us will assume that responsibility and start talking to our children, to our neighbors, to our friends, to our associates, and try to bring them into that Islam of the first century. Because the principle, as you said, never changed. The Quran, keep in mind, the Quran is a fixed text with a very dynamic meaning. I understand it not the way Ibn Kathir understood it 1,000 years ago. I understand it with my fresh eyes, based on my state of knowledge, on my state of understanding, and it's a different understanding from what Ibn Kathir has. Go ahead, you have the floor, sir.
Well, if you see that movement of the Prophet here, we all need to join it, but we don't see it. It's not happening, and we did not organize ourselves according to the model of the Prophet. We organized ourselves as a community who is just trying to satisfy its need and preserve its identity, not as a community to make a difference or make any change. So we try to revive the prophetic model and the prophetic community, which we don't see it. If we see it anywhere, if we see really community built according to the prophetic model, then that will spare us all the efforts. We just need to fill a membership and join it, become part of it. I personally, and some of us here, we don't see that movement, neither in the mosques nor in the Muslim organizations.
I have a question.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Like, in terms of the membership aspect, I always wonder, like, sometimes when I hear a knock from this other faith, like Mormons or Jehovah's Witness, coming over to passionately explaining their missionary work, and sometimes seeing very young age people, and it makes me kind of cringe and ask myself, like, how do these people, like, what's something different that they hold so much dedication and passion that we hold the truth, but we are just holding a faith without really vision or mission in it. So, like, what is something maybe different? What's something we are lacking? Yeah,
that's the difference between an average Christian who just go to the church maybe on Sunday, whenever it is convenient, or even regularly, and between someone who have that sense of mission that prompt them to go and knock on doors. And then I met students who take a year off to make some money to go and do missionary work in Africa or in Asia, etc. That's only if you have compelling sense of mission that will make you ready to do something like that. Majority of our community nowadays, they are similar to the average Christian, which is they subscribe to a religion without a sense of mission. They subscribe to a religion, but it's not prompting them to do much other than keeping it for themselves. What we are trying to do is to elevate or move as many Muslims as possible from subscribing to that convenient Islam without a sense of mission, to become a mission-driven Muslim. And the example that you mentioned is really makes it even very clear. The difference between an average Christian and Christian who goes and knocks on doors and then they slam the door in their face and they go and knock on the next door. And they go to live in very difficult conditions in other continents and in other places. It's only sense of mission. And that's missing nowadays. Majority of Muslims, they were given or inherited Islam that does not have a compelling sense of mission. In an Islam that consists of a short list of do's and don'ts. There is a short list of tasks that you need to do, a short list of tasks that you need to avoid, and you are fine. You just go about your life normally. You don't need to push yourself or push your limits or dedicate time fi sabilillah. No, you're a good Muslim. Why? Because you can check those boxes, the boxes for the short list of the do's and the short list of don'ts.
But why the bad movements, they succeed in recruiting people, send them to the Middle East from
Which
Europe
one?
and America, like Daesh. They have people from Europe, from United States. They were very successful. 10,000 of people, they moved to the Middle East to the war. This mission, right?
It's not the success of Daesh, it's our failure. That's how I describe that. It's groups that capitalized on our failure and on the vacuum that we left. And they put their product on the market and there was no competition. So the young Muslim or the convert, someone who becomes a Muslim, has a lot of energy that comes with the religion. And then they go to the market, quote unquote. What do they find? They find the traditional Islam is not appealing at all. They find maybe political Islam that is largely failed almost everywhere. They find some Salafi groups that really don't give them any channels for that energy, that tell them just sit in a halaqah and then learn Aqeedah and learn this and learn that. And then they find these groups that will tell you, you know what? This is the true Islam. The true Islam is to die fi sabilillah, and then you find yourself with the Prophet and the companions. All what you need is to fly from Europe or from America to Syria or to Iraq, fight for as several days or weeks or whatever, until you get the Shahada. Very simplistic. I mean, doesn't require an intellectual exercise. They give you a very simple package. It's like a shortcut. You want Jannah? We have a shortcut. You don't need to go the long way. So I don't call it success of those groups. I call it failure to fill the void or vacuum and keeping our children, our young people, our convert, keep them vulnerable to that product, because if we did our job, we would have produced a generation who is immune when these ISIS and other people come and tell them khilafah and jihad and fighting and you're going to get to heaven and etc. Tell them go away. Because why? Because they are inoculated. They have a background. They have a framework of reference that will make them immune to this nonsense. But if you lead طبيعة تأبى الفراغ, void will not remain void forever. If you leave vacuum or void, somebody will fill it. And that's what is happening, unfortunately. Yes.
May I add something, Dr. Suhail?
Sure.
I agree and second everything you said on an individual level. But as a strategist who reads a lot, research a lot, and I know that these groups were well financed, and I know that they were financed by the Israeli Mossad and the CIA. They wanted an enemy, to create an enemy, to take the place of the Soviet Union. And they opted that Islam will be that enemy. So they wanted to weaken the Muslim world to the maximum. And they created Daesh, which is a great idea, like you just mentioned, simplistic, but will get young people with hot blood to go and die fi sabilillah. So our failure opened the door for them, which is true. But let's don't forget that the money, the financing, the training, the weapons, all of this came from certain sources. And today, if you don't know, I'm going to tell you, there is a university in Tel Aviv called the Islamic University. I will send you pictures, the address, and everything you want. I have it documented. That university is run by the Mossad, the Israeli intelligence. They will take young Muslims or young Zionists and teach them to look like Muslim with the long beard, with all the garbs that Muslim shuyukh wear, and the amama and everything. And they'll send two to Iraq, one to speak against the Shia with the Sunni and to lead a mosque, and the other to the Shia to speak against, the other. So they one speak for the Shia against the Sunni, one to speak for the Sunnis against the Shia, and get them to beat each other. We are vulnerable. What Dr. Suhail is telling you, let us buy a shield to shield ourselves. And that shield is ideas, is an ideology of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That what will shield us against movement like this, or against people who are plotting against us, because by that time we'll be enlightened Muslim. We'll understand what our religion is all about. We will not fall for simplistic, let's fill the void. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. And I mean, conspiracy is going to continue forever. I didn't focus on conspiracy because it's beyond our control. I focused on what we can do, which is to inoculate our people against this nonsense. And I'm going to give you an example, very simple example. Just imagine, in our case here, let's not go far. Imagine someone who has been attending like either this meeting or the Jumu'ah for a number of years. Do you think such a person will ever respond to the call of ISIS? Never. Never. Imagine someone has been attending like in Shirley Gate for 10 years now or more, attending khutbah every week and getting filled with a moderate logic, understanding of Islam, very inspiring, very empowering, solve a lot of confusion in their mind, a lot of conflict, and then basically release all their potential. And then they find themselves suddenly or with time with a clear vision, clear understanding of this world, clear understanding of their role. I'm sure, 100% sure that with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, such person will never, no matter how much financing or marketing is done by these groups, will never respond to that.
Assalamu alaikum. I wanted to add on what Dr. Safi also said. He talked the issue of being financed, and I think last time when you look at the verse of birr, we and many verses in Quran, we have been really challenged by Allah to kind of as part of our mission is the concept of Aqidah Salah comes all along with, spending, putting our finances. So I think that also speaks to the way our institution, the lacking of these resources that will help us to establish this movement that will be inspiring and inshallah bringing the transformation that we need. So yeah, this is an issue that it's very ingrained in us. And I was invited by one of my friends one time for their in their church, and at the end of their service, when it was time for donation, I was really kind of taken aback to see how much people are willing to give. Like, people spend, like, give a lot, like 500, like, without even complaining or thinking. And I was like, oh my god, subhanallah, how do they do all this? And I see sometimes donation boxes passing in the masjid, and it just goes, and I don't know, but I think, yeah, when it comes, maybe a lot of us are financially struggling, yeah, but then also that aspect of, maybe we need to ask ourselves, where are we investing this? Where are we putting our money? Yeah,
And one of the things that we inherited, unfortunately, and needs to be fixed, is that we tend to avoid confronting the reality as is, and we tend to avoid responsibility for what's happening to us. That's why you hear a lot of time in Muslims' discussions, give us a solution. In their mind is, give us an easy solution. And hopefully, or ideally, it's a solution that somebody will do it for us. It's not even ourselves. So we want an easy and quick solution, and done by somebody else. Mahdi, somebody, political leader comes out of the blue and will do the job for us. We have that, they call it daydreaming or wishful thinking. Why? Because it is very comforting. Because the other approach of confronting reality, accepting responsibility for it, and accepting responsibility for changing it, and as you mentioned, putting your money where your word is or are. So, because talking is cheap, but when it comes to putting time and money and sacrifice, that's where people become reluctant. Why? Because in our mind, always, we want solution that is easy, quick, and preferably without much effort from us or sacrifice, done by somebody else, which we have to accept that this is something that does not exist. There is no change that's going to come cheap or quick or easy. All greatness in history achieved by individuals or a nation or a community demanded and required a lot of sacrifice. There is nothing that comes easy or cheap or without our efforts. So we have to understand, because this is the reason why when something like in Gaza happens, people go for a demonstration or two and then they relax. Why? Because in the back of their mind, that's their job. They did it. And some of them, they thought that one demonstration or two is going to change things. And then if it changes, fine. If it doesn't, I did my part. No, you didn't do your part. Because your part should be to advocate for the Palestinian cause, to talk about the root cause of the problem, to talk about occupation and settlement, and keep working on it until you get solutions, until you get results. It's not like I donated once, or I donated twice, or I demonstrated, I signed the petition, and that's it. That's my part. No, that's not your part. You have to become result-driven. Your eyes on the prize. It's like a student who goes to college not to study for one semester, but to get a degree. So their eyes on the prize until they get that job done, until they achieve what they're working for.
Yeah, just wanted to continue with that question that I had. I'm still not satisfied, a little bit uncomfortable with the word movement, because this is the first time I heard. Because, you know, the Christians and the Jews, they always have this problem, the Ahle Kitab, that Islam needs to be reformation, there should be a reformation, all that. I hope this is not that, you know, because we have to go back.
You don't hope for that. You should be confident, because we're not playing here, like playing those games of people who want to change our religion. Now, we want to rediscover our original Islam that was lost over the centuries. So it's not hoping that we are not repeating what other people are trying to do to Islam. You should be very confident.
Yeah. No, I'm saying, I hope this is not, I mean, when you say movement, so it raises a little bit, you know, question for me that, I mean, we are all Muslims and with the same mission of the Prophet. Why this spatial movement? That was
because the Prophet established the movement, and we don't have a movement nowadays, because a movement means a mission and leadership. And what we have nowadays is fraternity or communities of people, of a group of worshippers around the facility, but they have no mission and they have no leadership. So the most successful movement in history was the movement established by the Prophet ﷺ. And he was the greatest leader because he affected the greatest change in history. But he did not establish community of people who are coming to worship and learn. And no, he established a movement of change that changed not only the Arabian Peninsula, they changed the whole world in the span of one generation. So that's the greatest movement, and we have to be proud of it. And we want to revive that great movement of the Prophet ﷺ.
Inshallah. So that basically is motivation.
If other people use certain words, we shouldn't be intimidated. Otherwise, we're going to run out of things.
Yeah.
Because
it's just motivation, you think, right? It's motivating people, right? To, I mean, like the Quran says that you first have to change inside yourself first before, you know, and then it will become when there is a certain mass of people who are practicing this, then that will have a great effect. Otherwise, you know, there has to be a relative mass of people practicing and changing inside of themselves, and, you know,
and then changing outside.
Yeah. So that will be,
That's the very definition of movement.
Yeah.
I mean, a movement, the difference between a movement and community, a community is established to satisfy its own needs, like a support group. That's a community. A community is, we were okay to be a community when we were thinking of ourselves as immigrants who are here temporary. Yes, maybe all what you need is a place to worship, weekend school for children, some social activity, celebrating Eid. That's all what we need. Why? Because we are here temporary. We are here we need to preserve our identity until we go home. Even that is not acceptable Islamically, because in Islam, even if you stay for a day in a place or for a week, you have to fulfill that mission of the Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar, or Islah, to the best of your ability. I mean, you may not change a lot, but that mission need to be fulfilled even by individuals or groups who settles only temporary. Because that's what Quran says. الذين إن مكناهم في الأرض, wherever they settle, what they do? Establish prayer, pay zakat, and go out to do Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar, to change things. أقاموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة. In Surah Al-Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَمَرُوا بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَنَهَوْا عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. Wherever they settle. So if it was okay for us when we were here temporary, it is no longer okay that we are living for decades here, and our impact on this society is very limited, because we are defined in Quran to be shuhada ala nas, to be leading, to be model, to be impactful, leading by example, making a difference, that people feel the difference between before the Muslim community were settled in their neighborhood or in their city or in their state, and after. There should be a difference before and after. Like Muslims come to Fairfax and establish an Islamic center. That city and that neighborhood should feel the difference if we're doing our job. We should have an impact. Life becomes, first of all, educating people about Islam by example, and then serving the whole neighborhood and the whole city so that we become rahmah, true blessing, like the Prophet ﷺ was a blessing to whole humanity. But it is not acceptable for us to be here for decades, and yet our presence is to be felt.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Suhail.
وإياكم إن شاء الله.
Next Sunday will be no class for the Labor Day. Next Sunday we will see you guys the following Sunday.
إن شاء الله.
Jazakum Allah khair.
وإياكم.
So next Sunday is the Labor Day?
Labor
And
Day.
then not next
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Oh, it's next Sunday?
Not-
No. It's after
Monday.
next one.
Yeah,
Not
the
this
next,
coming
so
Sunday.
next
After
Sunday we
2
are
weeks.
meeting.
2 weeks.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We're meeting
It's not-
next Sunday. Okay.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Jazakallah khair.